Just setting up the live stream on YouTube so that it'll be saved over there. Okay. Uh-oh, that didn't work. I'm not sure. Okay, I hope it's recording. I'm not sure if it is. All right, I'll record it here also. Oh, it says it is. Okay, so that's good. So I wanted to address a specific point about this, and then we'll have time for questions as well. But I wanted to address this idea. I don't know if, I'm assuming most of you probably heard the news or saw the news or followed what happened over the past 36 hours. That yesterday night, meaning starting from Wednesday evening, there was, or last night for you guys in America, so there was this bombing of a hospital in Gaza, a Baptist hospital where many patients are in Gaza City. There was this terrible bombing with this massive explosion. The building was leveled, they said, and they claimed immediately 200 to 300 people were dead, certainly more than 500 once they made it through all the rubble of the bombing. And it was blasted all around the world. It was blasted all around the world. Every major newspaper ran it on their websites. The New York Times, even the next morning, which is crazy, as I'll explain in a minute, ran a front page story with this huge picture on the front page of this completely bombed out, leveled, blasted hospital. And the world was shocked. And another Israeli atrocity. They said this was probably the biggest, the deadliest airstrike that has ever been committed by the Israeli army against the Palestinians. And I'm just going to share with you for a minute here. I found online a supercut. One of these, a person put together this video of all the different news reports and people reporting about it. So I'm going to share this with you for a minute, and we'll watch this together for a moment.
Great.
Yeah, let's just watch this for a minute here.
Great opportunity for disinformation, especially on social media. I caution you to be very careful about what you choose to believe and on what basis. The horrific scene at a hospital in Gaza today, an explosion that killed more than 500 people.
The government in Gaza says the Israeli Defense Forces struck a hospital in the center of Gaza City.
An airstrike hit a Gaza City hospital, killing at least 500 people.
It's because of an alleged Israeli airstrike on a hospital in Gaza that Hamas health officials say killed more than 500 people.
And when you're talking about 500 people, you have to wonder how many of those people are innocent civilians.
That minimum, hundreds of people have been killed in what they say was an Israeli airstrike.
Where a hospital was caved in, killing hundreds and stranding an untold number under the concrete.
By far, the deadliest Israeli airstrike ever.
Hundreds taking shelter at a Gaza City hospital were killed in an Israeli airstrike today. Israel says it was targeting Hamas hideouts.
Palestinian officials saying at least 500 people killed in what they claim was an Israeli airstrike.
Aftermath of an alleged airstrike on a Gaza hospital that killed more than 500 people.
An Israeli missile struck the hospital. Absolutely horrific loss of life.
This is not the first time violence has actually hit what's supposed to be, obviously, a place of healing.
Deadly explosion at a hospital in Gaza. Palestinian officials say hundreds were killed, and they're blaming Israel.
This was not a blast. This was not an explosion. This was an airstrike. It was a deliberate war crime that Israel conducted on this hospital.
At least 200 to 300 people killed in that strike, and many, many, many more feared dead. Now, Hamas is calling this a genocide.
200 to 300 people believed to be dead at this stage. There are also many examples of civilian deaths caused directly by Israel. There's no doubt about it.
In the fog of war, what can we say for sure?
The Baptist hospital in Gaza City, that's the northern half of Gaza, has taken a direct hit from an Israeli airstrike. They are saying at minimum, 300 people are dead.
Egypt is saying it's very upset about this hospital bombing. The World Health Organization has strongly condemned the attack.
How about don't bomb the hospitals?
How about you just admitted that you did bomb the hospital?
Today, the death toll rose significantly in a horrific attack in Gaza. 200 to 300 people were killed.
The Palestinians are talking about 500 dead. Initially they talked about 200 or 300. Later up that number to 500. It is unlikely that a rocket, a crude rocket fired by a Palestinian group, could cause that number of casualties.
Hard to see how that would have been a misfire rocket.
This kind of death toll is not what you normally associate with Palestinian rockets. These rockets are dangerous. They are deadly. They do not tend to kill hundreds of people. And we should say finally that there are instances in the past where the Israeli military has said things in the immediate aftermath of an incident that have turned out not to be true in the long run.
Quote, a mind from hell is the one who deliberately bombs a hospital.
This is in response to the strike at the hospital.
This is a new level in terms of the fact that it was a hospital and the fact that so many people were killed.
What is your understanding of what happened in this hospital?
It's one of those situations where, as I look at the two of you, Nicole, Rachel, sitting where you are at the studio, you do understand that what we've just been amplifying is what the Hamas have said. Hamas claimed that Israel attacked the hospital.
But there is a great opportunity.
So, 1 second. I need to stop this video here.
Caution you to be very careful.
Okay, so this is the world news all around the world. This is what was projected, like you could see from every major news website and news show, cable news shows, and the repercussions were incredible. I'm saying Biden was coming to America the next day. The Jordanian king, the king of Jordan, canceled. Biden was supposed to stay for a whole other day to meet with Jordan. They canceled their meeting with him over this. The head of the Palestinian Authority, Yamach Shemo, Mahmoud Abbas, he canceled his meeting over this. Of course, Rashida Tlaib, Yamach Shemo, and Ilan Omar, Yamach Shemo, both of them tweeted about this and amplified this message, to their millions and millions of followers. And the results were real. There was a shul in Tunisia that was totally burnt down to the ground as a result of this. Riots broke out over there over this, and well as in Berlin. Berlin in Germany, a shul was also burned. I don't know if it was completely destroyed like the Tunisian one was, but mamish around the world, there were riots as a result of this. There were, violence, destruction. I don't know if anybody was killed directly as a result, but there's no question that the absence of potential peace talks that Biden would have had with these other people is going to prolong the war and prolong the destruction and the death and the situation of what we're going through over here. And that's what happened. Now, what we have to understand about this is that this was a complete and total hoax. It was a complete and total lie. There was no truth to this whatsoever. I'm going to show you now the next morning, just a few hours later, less than 12 hours later, when Israel was able to get a helicopter in the air. 1 second. I'm going to try to share the screen with you. I'm going to try to turn off the volume of this because I don't want the volume to affect me being able to speak over it here, because he's speaking only in Hebrew. But I'm now going to share the screen with you, and you're going to see what happened what actually happened in this situation. So let's take a look. Okay, so this is an aerial view of the hospital parking lot. Okay, what ended up happening actually, and you heard them all saying, it couldn't have been a Hamas rocket because, or an Islamic Jihad rocket, because they don't have the power to kill hundreds of people and level a building. There are no level buildings. All the buildings are still there, still standing. There was destruction in a parking lot. A number of cars are burned out, and if you'll see in the pictures shortly, not even all the cars in the parking lot were destroyed by this. In addition, it was absolutely confirmed that this was an Islamic Jihad rocket. There is video evidence. Al Jazeera was filming it live when it happened and caught the rocket going through the air, turning around, exploding in midair, and right after that, an explosion down on the ground. So it's clear as day. It's absolutely clear. There's no question about it. There's no suffix about it that this was something that didn't happen. Not only was it not an Israeli airstrike, right? It was clearly a Hamas rocket, an Islamic Jihad rocket. They have absolute video evidence of this, but there's no way that hundreds of people were killed. No way. There's right now about 30 confirmed deaths as of now. As of right now, a day later or so. And this hoax, this absolute made up lie is still now frozen in the eyes of millions of people around the world. And the New York Times on the cover, their front page, and you could look this up. I'm saying you could, just do a search for this. The New York Times front page, Gaza hospital. They used a different picture. They used a picture of a different building that had been totally collapsed and totally bombed out somewhere else as this huge picture on the front page with the headline, Israeli airstrike demolishes hospital. Now, where is this all coming from? It's coming from the Palestinians. It's coming from Hamas. They are the ones who put out the information. The Gaza Health Ministry is Hamas. Hamas is the government of Gaza. All the ministries, all the, any organization that functions in Gaza is Hamas. So what does that mean? That means that all the world news organizations, mamash, almost every single one of them, just took Hamas talking points, took a complete Hamas hoax about Israeli airstrike and a leveled building, didn't happen. About 500 deaths, didn't happen. And without any checking, without anything, and you even heard the person say, because Israel said right away, we were not operating in the area. There was an Islamic Jihad rocket fire that happened right before this happened. It was probably one of their rockets. And you heard one of those people say, I just want to say, I'll finish by saying that, it's not the only time that Israel has claimed something and then, later found out to have been lying about it afterwards. This was a complete and total hoax from beginning to end, and the whole world ran with it. And what's amazing to me, just incredible, the absurdity and the brazenness, how brazen Hamas is about this, is they knew that in a few hours it's going to be daytime. They knew that by the next morning, of course, the world is going to be able to see that the hospital was not leveled. There was no destroyed building. Again, this was the proof that everyone was saying. The proof was that the building was leveled and so many people died, so it must have been an Israeli airstrike, right? All of that was a complete and total fabrication, and they knew, Hamas, that it was a fabrication, and they knew it was an easily disprovable fabrication. In a few hours, by the light of day, it would be obvious to the whole world to see that that's not at all what happened, and they don't care. And why don't they care? Because they know full well that every single news organization is just going to take their word for it and run with this story and blast it around the world and cause massive, massive repercussions, rioting, shuls being destroyed, world leaders canceling their meetings with Biden over a complete and total hoax. Literally, Hamas hospital hoax. No two ways about it. And it doesn't matter. There's still many people around the world that don't believe it. Oh, sure, this is always what happens. They always try to cover it up and they don't bother actually looking and seeing the evidence and seeing what happened and seeing the pictures of it. It is just incredible and hard to believe. It's hard to believe that in today's day and age, this is still what happens. I always used to think that, if there would have been social media in the times of the 30s and 40s, if there would have been, the type of internet access that we have today in the times of the Holocaust would never have happened. No way. I don't believe that at all. You see from these things, Goebbels, Yamach Shemo, he was the head of the propaganda of the Nazi party, Joseph Goebbels. And he would have been a master of manipulating the media. He would have been a master of giving quotes about how good they were treating the Jews and how violent and destructive and bad the Jews were. And the world media would have gobbled it up. They would have eaten it up and they would have taken it and run with it. I don't know, is it from anti-Semitism? Is that where it's coming from? Or is it just from a wanting to get clicks? And the more dramatic and the more awful sounding the news is, so then the more people tune in and the more people watch and the more clicks they get and the more money they get. I really don't know. I'm not so quick to say it's just anti-Semitism, but it's something absurd. And what makes it even more absurd is that this has been going on for 100 years. For 100 years, the Palestinians have been lying, total fabrications, total made up lies about what we do or are trying to do. And as a result of that, killing us. I'm going to go back to 1929. I'm going to share another picture with you. This is from 1929, the Hebron massacre. I don't know if you are aware of this, but it's something that we should all be aware of. In 1929, that's when the British mandate was still going on. There was huge massacre in Hebron, right? Over 100 people were killed, just regular people. There was a yeshiva in Hebron yeshiva. It was called Hebron yeshiva. It was one of the yeshivas that had been set up in Hebron, and just regular people learning there, young Talmidei Chachamim, etc. And they were completely butchered and killed by the Arabs. This is one of the Baltimore News front headline: massacre of women, children at Hebron, told by refugees. There were eyewitnesses of British police who came in the aftermath, and yes, they beheaded people in that massacre just the same as they did in this past massacre. And now what caused this? What caused this tremendous massacre? Arab hordes slaughtered little children during mad orgy in the city. Right? What caused that? This is a picture of the people in the aftermath of that massacre, the Hebron massacre. You know, people got totally, slashed up and killed and brutal. And I'm not going to go through it. We've all probably been exposed to way too much graphic violence in the past week. But what caused it? What caused the Hebron massacre? What caused these hundreds of people to stampede and go and try to kill the Jewish people? Another lie from the Palestinians. What happened was that there was a march in Yerushalayim. The Jewish people marched. This happened in August of 1929. The Jewish people were marching to try to rally the British, who were in control at the time, to let us have access to the Western Wall. At that time, the wall was under Arab control, and they were doing construction there, and they would throw bricks down on the people that were davening. They would throw donkey feces down on the people that were davening. And, we couldn't just daven at the wall like we wanted to. And so there was like a march, a rally, non-violent. Nobody was, killing anybody. Nobody was saying death to the Arabs. They were just saying, let us pray at the Western Wall. And Husseini, who was the head of the Mufti, the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem at the time, was a person, such a Russia. Why do I mean a Russia? There's many pictures of him together with Hitler. I'll see if I can find a picture of that. I think I have one over here as well. One second. There are pictures of Husseini going to meet with Hitler. He's the one that tried to convince Hitler to, I'll share the screen with you on this. He's had this very, very famous meeting with Hitler in which he, tried to convince Hitler to, wrong one second. This is Grand Mufti of Yerushalayim, Amin Husseini, on the left, speaking with Hitler, Yamach Shemo himself. He sided with the Germans throughout the war. He wanted the Germans to come to Israel and ethnically cleanse Israel of the Jews like they were doing everywhere else throughout Europe. He himself went and toured concentration camps. This is him at a concentration camp walking around with a big smile on his face. And this was the person who spread all of these lies, again, about Israel trying to take over the Al-Aqsa Mosque. That's what happened when they did this march in Yerushalayim. So he sent out pamphlets all around. He made a big speech. The British asked him to calm the crowds, calm the Arab crowds, because we don't want there to be violence. He said, no problem. And he got up and he gave a fiery speech, encouraging all the people to jihad, encouraging all the people to defend the honor of Allah, defend the honor of Islam. And as a result, there were riots, mamish riots, and it spread to Hebron, and 130 or so people were mamish butchered, men, women, and children butchered. I do have to say that there were many Arabs who did hide Jews in their homes. There were many Arabs who were friends with the Jews in Hebron, and they didn't agree with this, and they didn't go along with it. And there were many people that were saved, over 300 people that were saved by their Arab neighbors. However, many of the Arabs even forced them to give up their Jews, the other Arabs, and forced them to take them out and kill them. And rioting happened. And this happens over and over and over again throughout our history. I can't tell you the amount of times that the Arabs have lied about us wanting to take over the Temple Mount. They're about to rebuild the temple and bulldoze the mosque so many times that they've lied, just brazen, bold-faced lies, no truth to it whatsoever. But the world doesn't care. Certainly the other Arabs don't care, who then riot and get riled up. And the Second Intifada started because of this. The whole Second Intifada began because of a rumor that we were going to be, again, taking over the Al-Aqsa Mosque. We were going to be changing the status quo. The status quo is this idea that the Jewish people and the Muslims share the area of the old city. The Muslims get the Temple Mount, and we have the area of the wall. That's the status quo. That's the setup, how it's supposed to be. And they keep on consistently lying about this and saying that, no, the Jews are trying to take over. It's imminent. They're about to take over. We better fight back. We better riot. We better fight and kill Jews in response to this. And it's the fact that it's just been literally almost 100 years of this tactic, and it works. It just keeps on working. It just keeps on happening and keeps on working. And their lies, no matter how blatant, no matter how disprovable, no matter, it just doesn't matter, right? There's a famous line, I don't remember who said it, but a lie can go halfway around the world before the truth even gets out of the gate. right? The lies just spread. People gobble it up. People eat it up, and they start riots, and they burn shuls, and they kill Jews. And all of this is literally just based on lies. There's something called a blood libel, right? A blood libel is when people used to accuse the Jews. This is like going back to the times of the in Europe, and you know the Christians used to accuse Jews of killing Jewish kids, killing non-Jewish kids, and using their blood to bake matzahs, and that would be the cause of pogroms. That would be the cause of all sorts of terrible tragedies that befell Klal Yisrael. And that's exactly what this is. This is literally a blood libel at the hands of the Arabs. They're just lying about what we're doing, just lying about what's happening, blaming us for things that are totally and completely not true. I'll show you the New York Post, thankfully at least, has integrity about this. And this was their front page yesterday. Right? Literally, Islamic terrorists killed their own people in hospital explosion, then falsely blamed Israel, blood libel. Right? That's mamish what's going on. We are literally living through blood libels, people blaming Jews for things they didn't do, things they did themselves, and blaming it on us, and the world just gobbles it up. The world just takes it in, the world just accepts it. And like I said, 2 shuls were burned as a result of this. Who knows how many other people around the world were accosted, or what other violence happened. There were riots that broke out all over the world as a result of this, and it's all just lies, literally just a hoax, one after another. And we can only sit back. There's nothing else we can do. Right? We only have Hashem that we can rely on. There's nothing else to do. No one else in the world is going to save us. No one else in the world is going to step in for us and say no, stop this. Let's wait for a second. Let's think. Let's wait till all the evidence comes out. No, that just doesn't happen. And we have to realize what world we are living in. The world is no different than it was 100 years ago, no different than it was during the times of the Holocaust. And we are not on our own. As far as the world's concerned, we're on our own, but we have the Ribono Shel Olam on our side. We have Hashem on our side, and we have to remember that. We have to daven like we've never been davening before. We have to do acts of chesed. We have to help each other and unite and stop many machlokes between ourselves. And hopefully Hashem will save us from this unbelievable situation, and stop